little bit of a tongue twister. I just stumbled over the word tongue twister. Wow. Hey folks, this is Alexander Winn, and today I want to talk to you about something that is very near and dear to my own heart and to anyone who's played TerraGenesis, and that is the viability of settling and colonizing Mars. And specifically, why Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye are dead wrong. Now, if you've been paying attention, both Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye, along with a number of other people, have been making some statements over the last few years about whether or not they think that people will ever actually live on Mars permanently. And for two people who have perhaps done more than almost anybody else in popular culture to popularize the idea of exploring space, a lot of people were surprised to find that both of these guys don't really think it's going to happen. Now, that's not to say that we won't land on Mars. That's not even to say that we won't necessarily build buildings on Mars and have some kind of a presence there ongoing. But neither of them think that we're going to have cities on Mars. Neither of them believe that humans will build a large and growing presence on Mars the way we often see in movies and television. They both laid out some interesting arguments why they think that is, and interestingly, they're the same points. So, I don't know, maybe they talked about it at some point. But if you asked me, neither of them are on the mark. Both of their arguments overlooked really critical factors that separate Mars from the environments that they likened it to, like Antarctica. So this week, I want to go through their arguments and talk through why I think that they're both missing the point about what makes Mars special. Before we get started, I do want to take 1 second to just make a couple of quick notes. First off, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you can stay tuned for all of our future episodes. And second, I do want to say both Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye are titans of the science educator community. I grew up watching Bill Nye the Science Guy, and so much of what these two guys have done has helped the cause of science and the popularization of science more than anyone can measure. Carl! This episode is about me disagreeing with both of them on an important issue, but it's not me hating on Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson. Because after all, that's what makes science cool. That's what separates science from other systems in human history where criticizing people in power was itself a crime. Science only follows what is true. And if you have an argument, if you have evidence, if you have a reason to think that someone might be wrong, all you have to do is say so. That's the spirit of science, and that's what I'm going to be doing here. So first off, let's talk about what they said. These happened in several interviews over the course of a couple of years, and they were not together at the time. These are separate opinions that they were each voicing, but they come out to be basically the same thing. Each of them were asked whether they think humans will colonize or settle or hominize Mars at any point in the next few years or in the future. And both of them said, not really. Neil deGrasse Tyson said, and I quote, "Definitely we'll visit as a vacation spot, but I'm skeptical that you'll find legions of people that will go there and want to stay." Bill Nye went further and said, "Nobody goes to Antarctica to raise a family. You don't go there and build a park. There's just no such thing. Nobody's going to go settle on Mars to raise a family and have generations of Martians. It's not reasonable because it's so cold, and there's hardly any water. There's absolutely no food, and the big thing, I just remind these guys, there's nothing to breathe." Bill Nye also elaborated on the personal discomfort of living on Mars. He said, "When you leave your dome, you're going to put on another dome, and I think that'll get old really quick. Especially the smell in the spacesuit. All the Febreze you can pack, I think it'll really help you there." And this one goes out to TerraGenesis players specifically. When asked about the possibility of terraforming Mars, Bill Nye said, and I quote, "This whole idea of terraforming Mars, as respectful as I can be, are you guys high?" And that's basically the central thrust of the argument that they're both making, is that living on Mars is hard. Living on Mars is unlike anything that humans have ever had to do before, and that it's not going to be that fun. It's not going to be that romantic. It's not going to be sort of the sci-fi dream that we see in movies and television where everything's taken care of by happy little robots. It's going to be uncomfortable, and so there probably aren't going to be that many people willing to do it. There's also a comparison that comes up a lot in these kind of conversations, both with Neil deGrasse Tyson and with Bill Nye, and others that you'll find online. And that is Antarctica. You'll find a lot of people saying, people will never live on Mars for the same reason they don't live in Antarctica. It's really inhospitable. You have to do a lot just to survive. There's no food. There's no insert thing here. Living in Antarctica is difficult. And in some ways, it's sort of a starter course for what it might be like to live on Mars. It's very cold. You have to bring everything. You can't go outside without protection. Obviously, there's still breathable air, and it does warm up somewhat. But it's a reasonable analog. And yet nobody lives in Antarctica. So that must be a breathing demonstration that no one would want to live on Mars. A lot of the arguments that these two men make come back to that central idea. Nobody lives in Antarctica, so nobody's going to want to live on Mars. In fact, when asked what it would look like to have humans on Mars, both of them say it would look a lot like Antarctica, in the sense that there would be research outposts, there'd be a little collection of huts and a landing pad, a kitchen where everybody comes to eat every day, and that's, pretty much it. It would be sort of like the International Space Station, except a little bigger. Both of them allow for the possibility that that might happen. There will certainly be scientists living on Mars. There might even be vacationers who go to Mars just for the novelty of doing it. But both of them argue that people are going to want to come home pretty quick, and it would be a lot like Antarctica, which is to say a population in the couple of dozen, maybe, and nobody who lives there permanently. Now, if you're getting more and more bummed out the more I talk, you're not alone. Every time these guys have said these sorts of things, there have been a furor on the internet. A lot of articles have come out saying, exactly, this is why we shouldn't spend money on space. And a lot of other articles have come out calling them traitors to the cause and all sorts of stuff. Obviously, both of these guys are basically human starting guns when it comes to internet controversy. And taking a position like we're never going to colonize Mars is going to piss off a lot of people. But you're in luck. Because I'm on your side. I think both of these guys are missing the point. Which is not to say they're not smart. Both of these are really smart guys. But they're both coming from roughly the same perspective in terms of the type of people they are. And I think they're both missing a couple of really critical points about what makes Mars different from anything else humans have done. Of all the quotes that I've heard from these guys, one of them does make me laugh every time I read it, which is Neil deGrasse Tyson. Definitely we'll visit as a vacation spot, but I'm skeptical that you'll find legions of people that will go there and want to stay. Really? There are so many people who want to go to Mars and would be willing to stay. This one is just silly. This one is Neil deGrasse Tyson talking from his own perspective. He wouldn't want to stay, which is fine. A lot of people wouldn't want to stay. Most people wouldn't want to stay. 99.9% of humans wouldn't want to stay. But if even 0.1% of humans would want to stay, we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of people who would be willing to live there. And let's not act like it's totally out of the realm of possibility. There are a lot of people who want to go up to the International Space Station, and I bet if you asked a lot of astronauts, a lot of them would be willing to stay for a really long time up there. Again, not all of them, but a lot of them. There are also plenty of places on Earth that are very inhospitable. For example, Antarctica. There are villages in Siberia and Canada and Alaska where you basically can't go out a lot. The kind of thing that you have to wear just to go to the grocery store is not that dissimilar from the kind of protective gear that you have to wear in Antarctica. And yet these are functioning towns. Their populations aren't huge. Certainly none of these towns are going to be the next New York or Los Angeles. But they have scores or hundreds, even a couple thousand people living in a scenario not that dissimilar from the analogy that these guys are using themselves, which is Antarctica. These towns have schools, they have grocery stores, they have movie theaters. They got a pimple bar! And of course they have houses. They have people who grew up in these towns and are planning to stay for the rest of their lives. They have thriving local economies. Or if not thriving, at least functional. These are places that are going to continue living this way in perpetuity, which is exactly what these two are saying is not going to happen on Mars. Which really cuts to the heart of the matter, and that is the human willingness to endure discomfort. Human history has, in some ways, been the pursuit of comfort. We're going to grow our food instead of having to go out and seek it out. We're going to build shelter instead of having to go find shelter. We're going to invent machines that can cut down on our workload. We're going to buy consumer products that make things a little easier. Humans are fundamentally lazy. We like our comforts. We like things to be easy. We like things to be safe. But that's not true of everyone. There have always been people who go out to uncomfortable places. Not just explorers either. There are plenty of explorers who journeyed down to Antarctica or journeyed through Siberia, journeyed up to the North Pole. There are plenty of people who go to the frontier and come back and tell us about it. But there have also always been people who live on the frontier. The Inuit lived in a very inhospitable area for centuries without electricity or any of the modern things that the average person on the street would say are required to live in that kind of environment. They figured it out. And obviously, Mars would be even harsher. But the idea that there's no one who would be willing to just live in perpetuity there is simply ignoring the evidence. And of course, examples like the Inuit are entire civilizations. These days, with the help of technology, we can support much smaller populations. If there are only 8 people who want to live on Mars, that's very sustainable. In fact, in some ways, a smaller population is even easier. That just means there's less food to grow and fewer supplies that you need to ship up. But I bet there are going to be more than 8 people. There are so many people on Earth. So many people who have fallen in love with the idea of going to Mars or traveling through space. And so many people who seek out hardship from lives that could have been very comfortable. There are plenty of well-off, middle-class or upper-middle-class people who specifically go to harsh environments on Earth because they enjoy that. There's a cross-section of the human population that specifically wants discomfort. And so the argument that Mars is uncomfortable and you're going to have to Febreze your spacesuit to make it smell good, and that's why no one's going to live on Mars, doesn't pass muster. But here's the biggest one. Mars has something that nothing has had in the human experience for centuries, and that is distance. For the last century, humans have gotten so used to the idea that you can go wherever you want. You want to go to Asia? Hop on a flight. You want to go to Antarctica? Get a boat. You can go anywhere on this planet. And it won't even take that long. But it wasn't that long ago that journeying to Asia would take months. Round trip, it could be a number of years. And that's if it was possible at all. Back in the days of Marco Polo, journeying to Asia would be the work of a significant chunk of your lifetime. And so the whole notion of travel was fundamentally different. You couldn't just come back home. You had to bring everything that you needed, or you needed to have the means to make it or find it there. Obviously, there's no one on Mars to buy it from. A European going to Asia could at least rely on the fact that there would be people there who ate food and who would likely be willing to sell that food. There's nobody that's going to sell us food on Mars. We're going to have to bring or make everything that we need. But that's the critical piece. We're going to have to bring or make everything we need. And that's not true of Antarctica. If you have an accident at an Antarctic research station, they don't really treat you there. They medevac you to New Zealand or Australia or South America. If you run out of food, they can airlift more. If a building catches on fire, they can evacuate. Whatever happens in Antarctica, it could be bad, but there's always a lifeline. There's always the rest of the world, and it's not that far away. That's the circular logic that is being presented by Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye. They say no one would live in Antarctica because it's so inhospitable. They don't build things that they need in Antarctica. Only scientists live there. But of course, the reason that they don't build what they need and that only scientists live there is because they don't have to. They can come back home. That's not true of Mars. Mars and Earth are constantly orbiting, which means that the distance between them is constantly changing. You may have heard the idea of a launch window. That's because there are certain times during the year when you just can't really launch for Mars. It's on the other side of the sun. It'll actually take you longer if you launch now than if you wait and launch when the planets are more closely aligned. Launch windows between Mars and Earth open up about every 25 months, which is to say every couple of years. And once you embark, the journey to Mars takes between 7 and 11 months. Generally, people say it takes about 9, depending on the launch window. 9 months is a really long time. For example, if you're a woman on Mars and you get pregnant, by the time you discover that you are, it's too late to go home. You're having that baby on Mars. If you have a heart attack, you have to deal with it. If you run out of food, you better start rationing. Whatever happens on Mars, you are too far away from Earth for a quick answer. Now, that's not to say you're completely on your own. Long-term problems can certainly be solved by a fresh supply rocket from Earth. If your rover breaks down, you might just have to do without a rover for a little while. But if something critical breaks down, you have to fix it yourself. And if someone gets sick, you have to heal them yourself. That means the infrastructure requirements for an outpost on Mars, even just for a few scientists like that Antarctic model, are going to be significantly higher than a base in Antarctica. You're going to have a much richer suite of medical facilities. You're going to have redundant systems for growing food and recycling oxygen, because if something breaks, you have to be able to either fix it or replace it. You're going to have some basic manufacturing capabilities, some 3D printing or something similar, so that if a machine breaks, you can create the part needed to fix it. In the interest of not going insane, you're probably going to have some entertainment facilities. You're going to have some social facilities. You're going to have administrative facilities. You're going to have a whole host of facilities that aren't really necessary in Antarctica, because you can just go home. And now here's where the magic happens. If you have everything you need to live on Mars, because if anything goes wrong, you have to be able to address it right then. If you have everything you need to keep you at least mostly self-sufficient, at least short-term self-sufficient, then you don't need to come home. If you can grow your own food, if you can deal with medicine, if you can build the things you need to build at least long enough to get you to that next resupply mission, then all of a sudden there's no need to come home. Then all of a sudden those people we talked about, those people who like living on the frontier, those people who aren't turned off by hardship, those people who aren't scared away by the idea of a smelly spacesuit, they've got no reason to come home. There are going to be some people who like living on Mars, and those people, by necessity, will have to be able to live on Mars in perpetuity. As soon as you have people who don't want to come home and who don't have to come home, you will have people who won't come home. That's the fundamental difference between Mars and Antarctica. The distance creates the requirement for self-reliance, and self-reliance creates the opportunity for an indefinite stay. Then the only question is there anyone who's going to want to stay on Mars indefinitely? And I think anyone who doubts that is kidding themselves. Now, that's not to say it's going to be easy. Justifying the cost of an ongoing settlement on Mars is going to be tricky. We're going to have to figure out a whole new style of economics, a whole new kind of frontier economy. But that doesn't sound impossible to me. In one of his interviews about this, Bill Nye said something that still makes me smile, which is talking about why no one is going to live on Mars indefinitely. People disagree with me on this, and the reason they disagree is because they're wrong. Bill Nye is a big part of the reason why I believe in science. Bill Nye is a big part of the reason why a lot of people believe in science. And the one thing that science teaches us, it's that if you want to say something's true, you gotta back it up. And just saying, seems inconvenient, isn't gonna get it done.
Safety glasses off, mother.
That's all for this week. Once again, I just want to say Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye have done a ton to popularize science and space. And for that, I want to say thank you. The beautiful thing about science is that we get to disagree and prove each other wrong without hating each other. And of course, I'd be lying if I said I was a completely unbiased commentator here. I want humanity to go to Mars. I want to go to Mars. And I think it sounds like so much fun to live on the frontier, even with the hardships of a smelly spacesuit. This was a fun one, and I would love to hear your thoughts. This is obviously my opinion. I'm very interested in hearing others, so comment below and let me know what you thought, both of this video and of the points I made. If anybody happens to have Neil deGrasse Tyson or Bill Nye's phone number, drop me a line. I'd be happy to debate them on the subject. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified about upcoming videos. We've got a lot of fun stuff in store for you. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy terraforming.